Understanding Communism, a journey through its arguments. Have you ever wondered why, in a world of abundance, so many people still go hungry? Why do we see vast inequalities, with some drowning in wealth while others struggle to survive? What drives companies to profit from conflicts that leave communities in ruin? Why do factory owners reap enormous profits while paying their workers barely enough to live? These pressing questions highlight the deep flaws within our modern capitalist system and pave the way for a compelling exploration of communism. Around the globe, people are starving even as perfectly good food is discarded. Corporations profit from civil wars, where child soldiers are forced to kill. In factories, mothers toil for meager wages to produce cheap clothes, sold at competitive prices in the West. These disturbing realities reveal the stark exploitation at the heart of our current economic system. Such exploitation is not a new phenomenon. In the 19th century, communists witnessed similar conditions in the factories of industrializing Europe. Horrified by what they saw, they developed the political philosophy of communism, deeply rooted in the suffering and struggles of the working class. The Communist Manifesto, one of the seminal works of political theory, offers a profound insight into the early proletarian movement's ideas and strategies. Reading this classic text provides an essential understanding of the foundations of communist thought, straight from the original source. Through this exploration, you'll uncover why communists believe that private property should be abolished. You'll learn about the striking similarities between our contemporary lives and those during feudal times. You'll also discover practical ways to challenge and resist the oppression perpetuated by the bourgeoisie. In this review, we'll address 5 key questions. 1. Why do communists argue that no one should have the right to private property? 2. How does the capitalist system perpetuate inequalities similar to those seen in feudal societies? 3. What are the moral and economic arguments against the current capitalist system? 4. How did the conditions of the 19th century inspire the development of communist ideology? 5. What actions can individuals take to combat bourgeois oppression and promote a more equitable society? By delving into these questions, we aim to provide a comprehensive understanding of communist philosophy and its relevance to the challenges of today's world. This journey through the arguments for communism will not only clarify its principles but also inspire critical thinking about the economic and social systems we live in. Economic power and social control, unraveling class struggles. Why do the wealthy dominate positions of power while the poor rarely make it to Congress? Why don't we see wealthy landowners toiling in factories? The root of this disparity lies in economics, where the class that controls the economy controls society. Changes in the economy drive changes in society. Every shift in social relationships is triggered by changes in the mode of production, the methods used to create life's necessities like food, shelter, and transportation. This fundamental principle reveals how economic structures influence social hierarchies and power dynamics. In hunter-gatherer societies, the mode of food production was limited to what could be gathered and hunted within a community's immediate vicinity. This mode of production did not allow for surplus, so there was no significant wealth accumulation or class differentiation. People within these communities were more or less equal, sharing resources and responsibilities to ensure their survival. The advent of farming revolutionized food production, introducing a more efficient system that produced surpluses. For the first time, there was more food than the immediate community needed, allowing some individuals to control these surpluses and trade them. This shift marked the birth of economic disparity. Those who controlled the food supply gained power over those who needed it, leading to the establishment of the first-class system. Economic power began translating directly into political power, with those controlling resources also controlling societal structures. Historically, societies have evolved into complex hierarchies of conflicting classes. The line separating these classes can be traced back to their degree of control over the modes of production. The class that controls a society's wealth controls that society by using its position to subjugate the other classes. This economic determinism explains why the wealthy consistently hold political power and why the working class remains subservient. In ancient Rome, for instance, the class divide was stark. Slaves, who were considered property, had no rights and were completely controlled by their masters. This absolute lack of economic power meant slaves were politically and socially oppressed to the greatest extent. Their inability to own property or participate in economic activities reinforced their lower status and kept them in perpetual servitude. Medieval Europe's feudal societies exhibited similar dynamics. Serfs, who were bound to the land owned by feudal lords, lived in a state of perpetual indebtedness and subjugation. These landowners exercised almost total control over their serfs, who were required to work the land and provide a portion of their produce to their lords. In essence, the feudal lords owned the serfs, exploiting their labor while maintaining economic and political dominance. This enduring relationship between oppressors and the oppressed, known as class struggle, is a central theme in Marxist theory. It posits that the history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggles. From the slave societies of ancient civilizations to the feudal hierarchies of medieval Europe and the capitalist economies of the modern era, class struggle has driven historical development. Each era's mode of production has shaped its class structure, with the ruling class leveraging its economic control to dominate the political and social landscape. Understanding this dynamic is crucial for analyzing contemporary social and economic issues. The same principles that governed ancient and medieval societies are at play today. The concentration of economic power in the hands of a few leads to political power being similarly concentrated, perpetuating inequality and exploitation. Recognizing the historical patterns of class struggle allows us to see the systemic roots of modern inequalities and consider how changes in the mode of production might lead to more equitable social structures in the future. The bourgeoisie, masters of modern society. You don't need to visit medieval cathedrals or castles to grasp the immense power that kings and the church once wielded. While these institutions now hold relatively little power, their once mighty influence has been transferred to today's dominant class, the powerful bosses of industry, or the bourgeoisie. How did this shift occur? The rise of the bourgeoisie began with the decline of the feudal system. Under feudalism, the means of production, primarily agricultural land, were owned by the crown, nobles, and the church. Ownership of land equated to control over other classes. For peasants, the only way to access land and survive was to enter into servitude. The industrialization of the 18th century introduced new modes of production, providing an alternative to feudal servitude. Factories offered a different form of labor, allowing farmers to leave agriculture for industry. This migration dismantled the old social system, but it didn't eliminate oppression. Instead, it birthed a new powerful class, the bourgeoisie, the owners of industrial capital. The bourgeoisie revolutionized society by replacing feudalism with self-interest and the free market's invisible hand. Despite this transformation, the fundamental social hierarchy remained unchanged. Workers now sold their labor for wages, which were not equivalent to the capital they produced. For example, when a factory worker makes a chair, their wage is just a fraction of the chair's sale price. The surplus value, the difference between the chair's price and the worker's wage, flows into the hands of the bourgeoisie, further amplifying their power. Driven by a relentless pursuit of more capital and new markets, the bourgeoisie expanded capitalism globally. Their growing influence has made capitalism the defining economic system of our era. This relentless quest for profit and market expansion has led to the pervasive dominance of the bourgeoisie in both economic and social realms, shaping the world in profound ways. The rise of the unified working class. Although the working class is oppressed, it is becoming increasingly unified. The oppressive king of the past has been replaced by the bourgeoisie. In their control, a new oppressed class has emerged, the working class proletariat. Any charm once found in work has vanished. Workers no longer produce for themselves but for factory owners who pay them just enough to survive. This is not out of care, but to ensure they continue to work and grow the factory owner's wealth. Under this system, workers' lives are sustained only as long as their labor benefits the bourgeoisie. When their work is no longer needed, they are discarded, treated as mere commodities. This utilitarian view dehumanizes workers, reducing them to expendable resources. The division of labor has worsened these conditions. As production steps become smaller, simpler, and more specialized, workers lose significance. Instead of crafting an entire product, they now endure the monotony of repetitive tasks for minimal wages. Capitalism strips away individuality, age, sex, desires, and aspirations all become irrelevant. Workers are reduced to mere appendages of a machine. Despite these dehumanizing conditions, the scale of industrial production has brought more workers together than ever before. Urbanization and improved communication have fostered a collective awareness among workers, erasing differences and uniting them in their shared commodification. Forced into direct competition over labor and wages, workers have realized that unity is their strength against the bourgeois system. The proletariat, as a revolutionary force, has formed unions to stand together and fight for a more just society. Since its inception, the proletariat has struggled against the bourgeoisie. The capitalists, in their pursuit of profit, have inadvertently created their own gravediggers, the unified working class poised to challenge and ultimately dismantle the oppressive system. The shared goal of communists and the proletariat, abolishing private property and seizing political power. Workers' rage is evident, but the question remains, how can the proletariat channel its frustration into a political movement that brings about fundamental change? The communists have a plan. Communists aim to unite workers for a common cause. While unions are forming in various countries and industries, their reach is still limited compared to the global power of the bourgeoisie, with their vast economic influence and international connections. To counter this, international communists have committed to representing the interests of the proletariat as a global class. These communists come from working-class parties and organizations worldwide, bringing with them a vision of a global proletarian movement that transcends national boundaries. A central part of this vision is the abolition of private property. Many find this idea perplexing, believing that the drive to earn money and acquire private property under capitalism is the only incentive for people to work. They fear that abolishing private property would halt production and lead to economic collapse. However, the proletariat does not generate property for itself through wage labor. Workers earn just enough to sustain their existence, far from sufficient to accumulate capital for themselves. The real beneficiaries of the property created by wage labor are the bourgeoisie. This property underpins their domination over the proletariat. Essentially, workers create the very instruments of their exploitation under capitalism. Therefore, under proletarian rule, there is no justification for individual ownership of capital. Since capital creation involves the entire society, it should be collectively owned by everyone. Thus, the communists' agenda is clear and urgent: the united proletariat must overthrow the bourgeoisie and seize political power to redistribute wealth across society. Refuting common criticisms of communism. Critics have often leveled accusations against communism, attempting to undermine its radical societal transformation. However, these criticisms are flawed and easily dismissed. Here's a rebuttal to some of the most common objections. 1. Attack on family values. Communism has been accused of undermining family values by advocating public education over homeschooling. Critics argue that this erodes traditional family bonds. Yet, under capitalism, families are already strained. Mothers often work long hours, and children are exploited in factories from a young age, treated as mere commodities. Communism proposes free education, independent of ruling class influence, aiming to elevate societal education standards without undermining familial ties. 2. Nationality and workers. Critics claim communism strips workers of their nationality. However, workers do not inherently benefit from nationalist ideals promoted by ruling classes. Rather, they are defined by their labor and oppressed status. Communism seeks to transcend national borders by uniting workers globally through standardized practices, international trade, and shared goals. The goal is to dissolve national distinctions, emphasizing workers' common plight and international solidarity. 3. Undermining religion. Some criticize communism for undermining religion. Indeed, communism challenges existing moral frameworks shaped by capitalist power dynamics. Historically, religion has often justified ruling class authority, from feudal kings to capitalist elites. Communism aims to replace these morals, viewing religion's role in upholding class hierarchy as outdated. As society evolves, communism advocates for discarding religious influences that perpetuate social inequalities. These critiques against communism are shallow and fail to grasp the fundamental principles driving the proletarian movement. They highlight a misunderstanding of communism's goals and the urgent need for transformative societal change. The manifesto underscores the importance of educating the masses about the causes and aspirations of the proletariat, striving to build a more just and equitable future. Uniting the global proletariat for liberation. Throughout the annals of human history, the narrative of societal evolution has been dominated by a relentless struggle between ruling classes and their subjects. At the forefront of this struggle today is the capitalist bourgeoisie, whose dominance over the means of production has entrenched inequality and exploitation. The working class, or proletariat, bears the brunt of this oppression, laboring tirelessly while reaping meager rewards compared to the wealth they generate for the bourgeoisie. This stark reality underscores the urgent need for collective action and solidarity among the global proletariat. Communism offers a radical yet compelling vision for societal transformation. It advocates for the abolition of private property and the establishment of a classless society where wealth and resources are shared equitably. Central to this vision is the empowerment of the proletariat through political revolution. By seizing control of the means of production, communists aim to dismantle the structures of oppression perpetuated by capitalist exploitation. This transformative agenda seeks not just to redistribute wealth, but to fundamentally alter the dynamics of power and privilege that have defined human society for centuries. The call to action is clear: workers of all countries must unite. International solidarity is not merely a slogan but a strategic imperative in the struggle against capitalist hegemony. The bourgeoisie, driven by profit and accumulation, will never willingly surrender their dominance. It is only through collective strength and coordinated effort that the proletariat can break free from the chains of economic servitude. This unity is a potent force that transcends national boundaries, uniting workers in their shared plight and common aspiration for a better future. Moreover, the communist movement recognizes the historical role of capitalism in shaping societal values and institutions. It challenges the existing moral and ideological frameworks that justify inequality and privilege. Religion, for instance, has often served to uphold class hierarchy, legitimizing the authority of ruling elites. Communism advocates for a re-evaluation of these norms, aiming to replace them with values rooted in equality, justice, and collective well-being. In conclusion, the path to liberation demands courage, solidarity, and unwavering commitment to the cause of the proletariat. As we forge ahead, let us remember the words of Karl Marx: "Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains." This rallying cry encapsulates the essence of our struggle, a call to action for all who believe in a future where labor serves humanity rather than enslaving it. To all our listeners, subscribers, and those who have liked and shared our content, we extend heartfelt gratitude. Your support fuels the growth of our platform and amplifies the message of liberation and justice for all. Together, let us continue to educate, inspire, and unite in the fight against capitalist oppression. Each voice raised in solidarity strengthens our movement and brings us closer to a world where every individual can thrive without fear of exploitation. Thank you for joining us on this journey towards a brighter tomorrow. Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Karl Marx.